Well, hello everyone. Welcome to LinkedIn for board directors and senior leaders. My name is Sue Elson. I'm an educator, practitioner, and author. Today's Wednesday, the 8th of December 2021, and looking forward to sharing lots of tips with you specifically for LinkedIn and board directors and senior leaders. So, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet, and also for all of you from wherever you are from around the world and the traditional owners there. The slides and video recording link will be emailed to everyone who has registered to attend. So if you know somebody who wasn't able to make it, they will be able to receive the recording, but you will also get the recording as well. I'm going to assume there's a varied level of knowledge and experience and that you can all read, so I won't obviously read everything out on these slides, but these slides are designed in such a way that you can just use the words, but by being present, you will also find that I add in lots of extra bits. Please add any questions you may have in the chat facility. I will also open up the screen at the end of the presentation and welcome you to just ask me questions verbally. And this session is being recorded. Whilst the screen is being shared, your name and details will not be visible. If you wish to make them anonymous, that's fine. You don't have to leave your camera on. It's all very flexible here. You can learn more about me on my website, sueelson.com, and you can see a list of my past clients at sueelson.com/clients, or you can just click from the menu and you will see that as well. Welcome especially to all the people who've already met me, and also welcome to all the people who haven't met me before. It's great to be with you. I'm going to focus on the top 10 techniques for board directors and senior leaders, the top 10 recommendations for company pages. Now, the reason I've done this is I'm assuming that if you're a board director or a senior leader, you may not be putting the posts online, but you need to know what is going on behalf of your organisation. I also realised that many board directors, thanks Carl for your little insight there, are very busy people, and they need to be able to manage LinkedIn in a very time efficient manner. So I'm going to share my top 10 ways to manage your time on LinkedIn within 20 minutes a week. And the goal here today is to improve your digital competency. So having a LinkedIn profile means that you are digitally literate. You've managed to log in with a password and email address, but are you using it to the best of its capability? There is a special gift. If you've joined us today, you're welcome to download my first 4 books at researchgate.net. They're all digital books free of charge. If you'd like to pay me for my hard work, you can get the same product at 120ways.com, and my LinkedIn for your career or business will be available as a printed book very soon. I also like to invite you to subscribe to me online. I'm regularly updating my social media profiles at least once a week, and that includes my LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn company page, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I put 2 videos on YouTube yesterday. I'm so excited. One was about my LinkedIn favourite tips for 2021 and features, and the other one was about my predictions for 2022. So let's hope LinkedIn hears me and we get some of those new features. I think of it as my wish list for LinkedIn. If you would like to book an appointment after today's session, if you do so by the 15th of December, you can have your appointment whenever you like. You just need to book it before then. Happy to offer you a $50 saving. So why even bother with LinkedIn? Well, you are going to be Googled by board colleagues, shareholders, staff, peers, media, stalkers, competitors, disgruntled shareholders, disgruntled staff, your neighbours, people at parties. Basically, everybody Googles one another nowadays. So LinkedIn is highly optimised for your name, and if you follow my guidelines, you will definitely appear in search results. I also recommend that every CEO, board director, senior leader, business owner, whatever it is, have your own website at yourname.com or .net or whatever else is available for you. And this is because the top executives now need to have a digital story. And wouldn't you rather have the story that you created rather than what the media or previous staff or anybody else have said about you? So I created my very first website online in 2001, newcomersnetwork.com, and I created my own name website, sueelson.com, in 2012. So it took me a while to come to the party, 11 years, but I sort of see it as a really important thing for top level executives to have nowadays. There are also 12 million or more people in Australia on LinkedIn, and it is really important that you join the pack because if people Google you and they can't find something about you, they may be suspicious of you. And at the end of the day, no board director position, no senior leadership position, no business is permanent. So, what keeps us going in life is a network. I believe you need 3 networks in your life: your professional, which is not just your roles, but anybody else in the industry or profession that you're in; your personal, so when you go down to the tennis club, you're just your name at the tennis club and they know you for your love of tennis. And then and your social network, which is your friends and family and special people who are part of your life. So I believe you need 3 networks in your life, but the way to keep in touch with them all is to connect with them on LinkedIn, because if they change their email address, they change their phone number, whatever changes, you can still reach out to them. So let's get straight into the top 10 techniques for board directors and senior leaders. So my number 1 is to customize your URL. So when you visit your LinkedIn profile, on the top right hand side, it says edit public profile and URL. And if you click on that, it will give you the opportunity to change it. And the one I recommend is where it's your first name and last name, all as one word, if that's available. What the LinkedIn system does automatically is it gives you one with your first name dash last name dash numbers and letters. So you want to change it, if you can, just to your name, or put a dash between your first and last name, or you can put your post nominals or your pre-nominals. So Ms. Sue Elson I could put there, or B. Bus for my Bachelor of Business. I don't recommend you put your company name there, just keep it to your personal name. For people who have common names like John Smith, you might want to call yourself John M. Smith or some other sort of initial in there, so that everywhere you are online, they know to look for the John M. Smith person. Now, as a senior leader, you probably don't want those disgruntled shareholders contacting you. So I do not recommend that in the contact info section you include your phone number, and I do not recommend making your email address visible either, because honestly, you could get a lot of queries that you don't necessarily want. Now, for someone like me who's in consulting, I want people to reach me, so mine are there. But if you're in one of those board director positions or senior leadership roles, you may decide, no thanks, I will keep that private. I also do not recommend that you include your date of birth. So I'm an ex-banker, and your date of birth is part of your identity. So please do not include that on any of your social media profiles. I often use the 1st of January of the year I was born as an alternative date if I need to put something in. Obviously, it's for government documentation, I have to put the right date of birth, but for anything else, I usually use a fake one. Also, in the contact info section, if you've only got one board director position, then you might like to promote that organisation in your 3 websites that you can list in that contact info section. Now, if you're part of multiple boards, you might say, look, I'm not going to do that. You can see here that I've also put in the link to my personal website so people can check that out. But you can add 3 websites in that contact info section. And I've also chosen to use the drop-down box called Other so that I can name it. So you can see there I've used the 30 characters to name that website link. The next thing you can do on the top of your LinkedIn profile is you need to change that image from the grey, terrible, smoky looking thing to something that you would like to have. Now, I obviously want to promote my books, but whatever you do, I normally recommend you put the logo in here over on the right-hand side so that there's plenty of clear space around your picture, but also when this profile is looked at on a mobile device, the face will slide into the middle. So when the face is over here, it's going to chop off a little bit of my books. I'm not worried about that. But if your logo was in the middle, it could completely obliterate your logo. So I don't want that to happen. So just keep that in mind. Also, you can also decide who can see your connections on LinkedIn. So a lot of senior leaders and board directors are very well connected, and the last thing they want to do is open up their network to everybody else. So you may choose to make sure that your connections are not visible. But let's say you and I are both connected to Mary. I'll still see that Mary is connected to you, but I won't see any of the other people. If we're connected, I won't see any of the other people that you're connected to with that setting. Now, statistics. I could spend a lot of time talking about these, and these are the ones I believe you should measure at least every 6 months. So if by doing this workshop, you go through and click on those links and record your numbers, you will have a baseline to say, this is what it was before I did what Sue suggested. And then in 3 months' time, you can check those statistics and see whether or not they have improved. So I'm going to recommend a minimum of 60 connections to start with, 500 or more over time. So you just pop your number in there. And if you want to print this out, you can, or you can put it in a Word document and keep an ongoing record. It's up to you, Excel spreadsheet. You can also check your number of followers. So ideally, the number of followers should be more than your number of connections. And there's something called creator mode that has just been started. And if you choose to take that up, you will end up with definitely more followers than connections, because the blue button on your LinkedIn profile will change from connect to follow. You can also keep a record of the number of people you are following. So I would suggest that if you're a board director or a senior leader in multiple organisations, you would follow all of those organisations as well to see what they're doing. Your number of views per 90 days, if you would like your profile to attract new opportunities, would be more than 100 per 90 days. And if you have filled in your profile adequately, you should also receive at least 50 profile views, appearances in search results in 7 days. If you've completed your profile with a minimum number of sections, you will then have an all-star profile. Doesn't make a huge difference. The keywords are the most important things to include on your LinkedIn profile. Now, further down, you will see that you can list some skills. Now, you can have a maximum of 50 skills, but the top 3 are shown at all times. So if you want more board director positions, you might want to list that as one of the first skills on your LinkedIn profile so that more people can vote for you. And the goal here is to get at least 20 votes for your top 3 skills. Now, it can be hard to ask for recommendations, and you might feel a little bit nervous about writing recommendations for other people. When I worked in the bank, we were not allowed to provide references, only the dates of employment. But the only thing I write in a recommendation is exactly what I have observed. So if somebody says, Sue, can you write me a recommendation? I will only talk about what I have seen them do. So let's say they were a project manager and I worked with them, and they were really good at being on time and on budget, but they were terrible to all the staff and everybody they worked with. So I would not say that that person is a good project manager. I would say that that person has the ability to work on time and on budget. That's it. I wouldn't make any other comment. And if I was really rattled by their behaviour, it wasn't just sort of a personal clash, I probably wouldn't write the recommendation at all, because guess what? Recommendations can be used in court. So you need to be prepared to stand up to whatever you've said in that recommendation. So my formula is how I met them, what I observed, wish you all the best in the future. And if you can incorporate keywords that are relevant for that person, that is even better. You can also write a post that goes in the newsfeed, and I would generally recommend 1 a week, but for people who are super busy, maybe 1 a month. But you can also engage with other people's content, and that's a really great way to get involved. Please don't forget, pop your questions in the chat. And also there's a facility to write articles. Now, articles can be opinion pieces. They don't have to be referenced fully like an academic paper, but they can appear in Google search results. So you might like to consider writing 3 a year to get your name known in other ways. And that content may appear in Google search results even quicker than content published on the company website or on your personal website. The next one is to start adding connections. So if you bring your phone up to the screen here and you actually press in the search box, you will see some little dots, and then you will see your code. And then if you slide across to the other side, you will see that scan option. So when you're at the board meeting and a new board member becomes part of the team, what you can do is you can invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn in person without touching one another and without having to produce a business card that was left in your last laundry and got, you know, in the washing machine, whatever. So it is really good idea to make a habit from now on of connecting with people via that QR code. Now, when the person's name appears on your screen, there will either be a blue follow button or a blue connect button. Do not press either one. Press the 3 dots next to that blue button. And then what you can do is there's something called personalize the invite. So you can say, nice to meet you at the board meeting for XYZ on Wednesday. Would you like to connect? So when that person receives the request, they know how they met you, but also if they ever look at the messages between you and them in the future, they'll remember how they connected with you. So it's a really personal touch and nice to be able to do. Now, Carl mentioned he was hosting a big event with lots of people. So if you're going to be meeting lots of people on the one occasion, you might like to have a little note in your phone that you can copy and paste into that personalized invite box when you do that. Now, another thing that is really important in the social media world is not just to post and share how fabulous you are or the company is that you are directing. It is to actually be a nice person. And I call being a nice person a personal encourager. And you're the type of person who, when the company puts out an update, you might like it, you might comment on it, you might share it with your network, or you might send it to somebody in particular who you think could benefit from it. So that engagement piece, in my view, is just as important, if not more important, than producing content, because everybody likes someone who encourages others. So I definitely encourage you from today to be a personal encourager and think about how you can support others on LinkedIn. And finally, I am always going on about how important it is to update your LinkedIn profile. Now, on Friday, my LinkedIn layout completely changed, and I'm in the middle of teaching on Saturday, and I looked at my screen and thought, what's happened? So changes can appear at any time. And thanks to COVID, in the last 2 years, there have been more changes that I've seen on LinkedIn than probably since I joined on the 21st of December 2003. So please look at every box, decide whether you can put some content in there. And I definitely encourage you to include your professional membership. So for example, if in Australia, you're a member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, you can add that information in the licenses and certification section, as well as the organisations section. So that's a great way to profile your membership, but also a great way to profile the association. You can list your board positions in either or both the experience and or the voluntary experience sections. So as an example, I was invited to join the Victorian Council of the Australian Human Resources Institute. And when I was actively in that role, I put that role in my experience section. But because it was in human resources and I'm not really focused on human resources anymore, I've now moved it into the voluntary experience only because it was a voluntary role. But let's say you're starting out on your board directing career and it's only a voluntary position, you don't want anyone to know that you're not being paid, then you can definitely pop that in the experience section. And this here is a little screenshot of my statistics from yesterday. I was getting this many profile views. My most recent post had just gone out, so I'd only had 41 views. and this is how many appearances in search results. So if you remember that statistic slide, this number here should be 100 or more, and this number here should be 50 or more. So they're the top 10 strategies for board directors and senior leaders. So now I'm going to move on to my top 10 recommendations for company pages. Again, remember, don't forget to pop your questions in the chat. And if you want them to be anonymous, just message me rather than everyone. So company pages. Obviously, the first thing you need to do is make sure it is completed. Now, I know that sounds blindingly obvious, but there are many profiles that I've seen that do not have a reasonable amount of text. You can see here, you can include 2,000 characters. I've seen website links that still say HTTP instead of HTTPS. So you need to copy paste your links in. You need to nominate 3 hashtags. You need to list all of your physical locations. You need to put on a button which might go to the website or contact you or whatever. There's a lot of sections to fill in. And I do a lot of work with schools, so they will have a school profile instead of a company profile. So whether they're a school, college or university, it's called a school. They still create that profile here, but they mention that they're an education provider. If they've accidentally set it up as a company, there is a form that can be completed to upgrade it to a school, college or university. I also recommend that every company profile have at least 3 or more administrators. And the people that you would typically include is someone from the IT department, someone in communications and marketing, and maybe someone else in administration as a minimum. So this is a screenshot from a school that I help, and they've got 6-page admins. And this means that those admins do not need to be working at the school. It could be the digital agency that has permission, and then they can post in the company page. And obviously you would want to make sure in a board director position that anyone who was no longer part of that organisation was removed from the admin role when they leave. To go soon. Now, your employees. A good goal to reach is to make sure that 80% or more of your employees have listed the organisation as their employer. Now, the top 10 brands in the world have at least 60% of their staff on LinkedIn, and they've listed their company as, working with that particular organisation. So if you can get 80%, I reckon that's amazing. You would never expect 100%. You may find that there are a bunch of rogue employees who say they work for you, but they really don't. There's not a lot you can do about that, so please don't lose any sleep over it. But if somebody is leaving the organisation, part of the outboarding process should be your instructions to say what you would like the person to do with their LinkedIn profile when they leave. So I would suggest a reasonable request would be to update their employer name within 1 month, because as we know, sometimes it can take a little while to find a job. And so if people want to leave it there just a little bit longer than their last day, I think that's okay. But I would definitely suggest they would need to say that their employment had finished within 1 month of departure. Also, what they can do is they can add a new job in called career research. So whilst they're looking for a new role, the algorithm can still see that they are working, they're doing something, and the algorithm then believes that this person is still employed and will still serve them up in search query. There's a nice long question in there, so I'll leave that to the end. Thank you, Helen. I'll definitely get to it. So, social media policy. Every organisation should have a social media policy. My question for you, put in the chat, yes or no, have you read it? It's a tough question. A lot of people have no idea what the social media policy is for the organisation. What is the social media policy for board directors and senior leaders? It should be made available to every new employee, all existing employees, and any staff who are leaving. It can provide recommendations of what you would like those people to do on their LinkedIn profile. but it can't be a requirement because everybody's LinkedIn profile is their own. Next, you could invite, particularly if you've got a social media management team, to keep a record of all of your posts and all of your articles. Now, I've been in the unfortunate position where I've published content online and it's been deleted without my permission. And then voila, I've lost it. So what I recommend on LinkedIn is you can copy a link to your post. And if you have a little spreadsheet running with the date, the topic, and the link, then what you can do is you can always go back and say, all right, what did we do last year for Are You OK Day? What will we do this year? And you can always click on that link and go back to it. I was working with a school and they put out a link to the school reunion. And it turned out that that particular picture that they used included a person who had been convicted of terrible offences. So they needed to find that post immediately and delete it. Now, if they just had to scroll through all of their past posts, that would have been a very difficult exercise. But if they had the link to the post, they could have just clicked it and removed it immediately. You can also make sure that the company is putting out posts that go in the newsfeed, articles that stay online forever, running events, and natively uploading videos. And if these are all done under the company profile, then they become the part of the digital asset of the company. So on the balance sheet, when it's time to sell the company, if you've built up an incredible digital presence, you could add a dollar value to that digital presence. But if everything was published on the CEO profile, there would be nothing left on the company profile. So here's what happens when I choose to write an article. I can publish it as me, Sue Elson, or one of my enterprises, or my Sue Elson company page. And you might say, well, Sue, why do you have a company page when you're an employee of one? Well, I've got over 400 followers, so that's pretty cool. But the other reason I love having a company page is it puts all of my content in one place, and it makes it very easy for people to do their due diligence on me, and it would do the same for the company that you represent as well. You can also remind the company page admins, the people who are administering the page, to invite people they connect with to follow the company page. So let's say, for instance, you have somebody who is in the sales team and they're meeting a lot of people, and they're also an admin on the company page. You could remind that sales manager or salesperson to invite those people they're connected to follow the company page, because they're all clients, and unless you ask people to do it, it may never happen. So I definitely recommend that that be a sort of a regular activity. Now, if you want to keep in touch, let's say you're on the board of 10 organisations, how on earth would you remember which links to go to and where their content is and so on? But what you can do is you can visit their company page on LinkedIn and bookmark it. So this is just the bookmark screen from Google Chrome, and you can add a bookmark and you can call them your boards, company boards or whatever. And then what you can do is every so often you go into that list of bookmarks and you visit those company pages and you decide whether you would like to engage with any of the content. Now, this was a great idea I got off another LinkedIn specialist overseas, and I thought it was fantastic because there's no way I want to search for each company and wait for them to appear on my screen before I engage. I just literally want to be able to click on a link and go there. Now, bear in mind, if they are linking to other content, you should check the link and make sure it's all above board. But definitely this is a great way to maintain your personal encourager relationship with those other organisations that are important to you. And events. This is obviously a LinkedIn event and it's talking about LinkedIn, but events on LinkedIn appear on your company profile. So if you have an open day or a special occasion or something like that that's open to the public, putting them on your LinkedIn profile means that they'll be profiled there long after the event has occurred. But more importantly, everybody who registers if somebody visits their LinkedIn profile before the event they've registered for, they'll see that Mary is going to your event because Mary registered, which is fantastic. What Mary can also do is she can also invite people in her network to attend. So if a senior leader in the organisation accepts the invitation to go to that company event, it's you, then you can also obviously invite people you're connected to as well to go to the event. And lastly, consistency. This is the number one key to all social media. Update your profile and keep active on social media. You must abide by the LinkedIn user agreement, and I've popped that link there. Section 8 has the do's and don'ts, which makes it really easy to read. But if you can maintain a good quality, regular and varied posting schedule by using social media management tools, if you have to, like you don't have time to put out a post every week, you could batch it over 6 weeks and then just automatically send. Remember to continually engage, respond to any comments where you have been mentioned. So if there's a little at next to your name, it makes it a link and then it notifies you that you've been mentioned, so you can respond to those. And please do not allow your sales staff to go out and bombard people with connection requests and then start selling their services. That is not the way to do it on LinkedIn. I work on attracting business to myself, so I call it the pull strategy rather than the push strategy. However, I do work with some companies and we've developed some good systems for reaching out to people and generating sales. In the LinkedIn user agreement, it makes it extremely clear that you are not allowed to automate in any way. So you can't have virtual assistants in another country or another state, and you're not allowed to use any automation tools, any sort of tech solution of any sort. So you are allowed to systemize. So you're allowed to say, right, we're going to do this in a logical order and do it yourself, but you're not allowed to have somebody else be logging into your account and using it on your behalf. And remember that if you are a board director or a senior leader, you need to set the standard for the rest of the organisation, because people do look at board members and try and understand a little bit more of the organisation. And if you're a keen, active board member who's over a certain age, you can demonstrate your digital competency by incorporating these skills in your own LinkedIn activity. So how can you manage all of this in 20 minutes a week? Because I know you're busy. So let's have a look. First of all, log on and engage with the newsfeed. I'm going to allow 8 minutes for that. Look at any notifications you have and decide if there's anything you need to respond to. Look at your network connection requests. So various people will invite you to connect, and you can have a policy of saying yes or no. For example, I do not accept connection requests from people who design websites in foreign countries. It's just no point. Look at any event invitations you've received. Visit and engage with those bookmark company pages in your internet browser, about 2 minutes for that. Edit or update your own profile. Maybe you've just been accepted for a new position, or you've got a setting that you want to review. Post an item in the news feed. Now, you don't have to create it yourself. You can actually find something from somewhere else and share it. That's called curating. And also, you might like to have a quick look at your statistics, your activity and results, and make plans for next week. And if you're thinking about whether your company should pay for social media ads or LinkedIn ads more specifically, please read that article first, because there are things that you need to have done before you pay for anything. As a bonus, I'm also going to remind you that every month it's a good idea for you to check and see if things have changed, add in any new email addresses, new connections that you forgot to add, save a copy of your LinkedIn profile to PDF, particularly if you've made some changes to your profile, and you can do that via the More button on your LinkedIn profile. You can also go into the back end, into settings, or follow that link, and you can request a copy of your data. That's going to list all of your connections, so you can match that up with any other lists you have and see if you have connected with all the board members and other colleagues or the CEO or whoever else you may like to be connected to. You can look at your back-end settings to see if any have changed or whether you need to adjust them accordingly. If you are no longer a board director and going out on your own, you might say, yes, I'll have my email address visible. Double check any of your strategies and see if you've missed anything, and also consider completing some additional training to make sure you're up to date with the latest. So where to from here? Well, I run a free LinkedIn webinar every month on the second Wednesday of the month. Unless something comes up, then it might be rescheduled. But I've got topics scheduled for the whole of 2022, and you can see the links to those on my website on Presentations 2022. Again, quick reminder, free downloads. Get ready with your questions, by the way. You're going to be asked them in a minute. So if you'd like to download my first 4 books for free, you can go to researchgate.net. You might say, why on earth are you doing this, Sue? Well, if I get more reads, more people get to learn about what I know. So I'm excited by that. But if you'd like to pay me because, you know, I'm an author, maybe we should pay authors. You can purchase them from 120ways.com. Again, you may wish to follow or subscribe to me online. You will be receiving a link to these slides so that you can click on those links and follow me. I would love to have some more YouTube subscribers. That might encourage me to do more videos. And my Instagram account is mostly poems. So if you need a little bit of inspiration, you might like to join that one. Again, if you book an appointment with me before the 15th of December, I will happily give you a $50 saving. And finally, if this information has been helpful to you, you might like to write a review. I encourage everybody not to wait until they're angry to write a review, but to actually write reviews when you are happy. So if you have a Gmail email address, you can easily do a Google review by clicking on that link. If you don't have Gmail, you can just write one on my website. And anything that you think would be useful for others to know is all you have to write about. You don't have to say I was the best person ever. And then you can also write a LinkedIn recommendation. Anybody who needs to be connected to me will see that you've written a recommendation, as well as if you want to endorse my skills for LinkedIn. So I will now go to LinkedIn, and I apologize for any messages you see because this is obviously live. And the first question I had was from Helen. So I have my own business and currently predominantly use my personal LinkedIn for lots of news. It seems complicated to have two, and yet I appreciate it is useful. Do you have general rules of thumb for what news, likes, encouragements post on the personal or business LinkedIn? Okay, my motto for social media is friendly and professional, not personal. Nobody's going to hear about any personal struggles I have, my family, my relationship with colleagues or, you know, lovers, whatever. None of that do I include online. So everything I do, I make sure that whatever I post provides information. It must be of useful information. So here you can see I've just talked about the event and I put the link, but they don't have to click anything to understand what that post was about. So I believe that's really, really important. Put the whatever you want to say in your post. And you can see here I've also put capital letters at the beginning so that people, if they're just scrolling through the news feed, they can see what this is about. I realise this is only on the event page. It's not on the main page, but it gives you a bit of an idea. And I also have found, so if we just go back to the news feed, let's assume that Helen was going to put out a post today. And if it looks like there's only 4 choices here, right? But if you click start a post, you've actually, and these 3 dots, you've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9 choices of what you can put in the post. Now, this one here, add a document, is doing really, really well. Please don't create a poll. Everybody is over it. But a document can be a PowerPoint presentation that you have saved as a PDF, right? So you don't need any extra tech to save a PowerPoint as PDF. You just choose File, Save As, PDF, and it can be in landscape or portrait mode, doesn't matter. But what that will do is it will appear as a clickable slideshow in the news feed, which means that people look at it for a long time. So I will be putting the slides up from this event as a PDF so that people who even did not attend the event can click through these slides and decide whether they'd like to listen or they're just happy with what they learned from the slides. That's why those slides are so comprehensive. So that's a really good one. Now you can do that either on your personal profile or on the company profile. So let's say there's a new catalogue put out by the company, save it as PDF and pop it in the company page. That could be extremely helpful. And then there's all these others, I don't really use so many of those. You can also create an event as an individual person. So an event I'm speaking at tomorrow night is for Deakin University, and it's on the topic of the future of work. And because it was created by a staff member who did not have access to the Deakin University company page, she actually created this event herself. Jane Menzies is the staff member. So this is her own event. You can see she's put all the Deakin logos on it, and we've managed to attract 63 people through LinkedIn, and she's also got a mailing list, and she's got various other people coming via that. So if any of you are interested in that, I'll just pop that link in the chat. Thank you to the people who've provided thank you messages in the chat facility. That is much appreciated. Now, I warn you now, I am going to choose stop sharing so I can see your faces on the screen. This will then go on the recording. So if you want to turn your camera off, that's fine. Also, on the recording, your name on the screen will not appear. So rest assured, I'm trying to maintain your privacy, but if you're comfortable with your face being on the screen, that is all good as well. And just before I do, I can see there's another quick question here. Sue, wonderful presentation, lively and well timed. To get so many requests to link, including from many people I have never met in various professional areas. My views on this, more professional versus work. Okay, so first of all, I have a criteria. And as I said before, I do not accept invitation requests from website developers from foreign countries. I just don't do it. And that's my policy. Now, everybody who invites me to connect, I will look at their LinkedIn profile and I will see if they've got a photo. I'll see if they've got a reasonable number of connections. I'll look at their recent activity and I'll make a value judgment as to whether or not I will accept that person in my network. So yes, and in referring to personal life, not professional versus, oh right. So professional, so you can do a mix. You can mention things that you're doing professionally as part of your career, and you can mention things that you're doing as part of an organization. I just wouldn't do too much of any one thing. So some people suggest, I went to a video workshop, I go to between 1 and 4 events every week. And somebody suggested I should put out 20 videos a month. Now, videos are my least favorite form of content because I figure if I put videos out and somebody doesn't like me, then what's going to happen? I'm going to end up with a lot of people who don't like me, whereas my text can sort of speak for itself. So I am reluctant to put out a lot of video content, but I do understand that 80% of mobile content in the future is going to be on video. So I do need to do more video, but again, I'm going to limit it because of the number of people in my network. If my video kept popping up all the time, that would not be good. So that's why I tend to avoid it. Now, likewise, if I do videos, I try and make them fairly short, not too long, because I don't think anybody in the news feed really wants a terribly long video. And obviously YouTube is a place for long form content. What I do like to do though, is I like to add my video to YouTube first, then I wait a little while, and then I look at the subtitles that YouTube has created. And then I edit those subtitles. So when I add the video to social media, I can add the video file independently, and I can add the subtitles file. It's called an SRT file. So I download that from YouTube. That's all been edited with the correct spelling of my name, all of that sort of thing. And then what I can do is I can make sure that any videos that are watched that I've added to social media, they will have captions on them, which helps people with any form of disability. So I feel, much more comfortable about publishing videos that are accessible to all people. So there you go. That's all the written questions. So if anybody would like to ask a question verbally, I'm happy to stay here till 1 o'clock, which is another 15 minutes away. So either raise your hand via the reactions button, or you can just unmute, whichever you prefer. And if I don't see any, we shall wrap up. Have to leave early. Thanks, Vicky, for coming. Any other questions? And by the way, I'm more than happy to answer questions directly via email if you don't feel comfortable asking them publicly. I'll just put my email address in the chat so that if you want to do that, you've probably gathered by now I'm all over the internet. So if you just Google my name, you'll also find my contact details. Thank you, Lisa, for your message. Any final questions? I feel like the auctioneer. Gail, thank you.
Hello, I've got a question. Thanks, Sue. I might have missed it, but I have trouble understanding the difference between followers and connections.
Okay, I didn't explain it specifically, so you didn't miss anything. Okay, so a connection is somebody who becomes part of your network. So when you are doing a search, somebody who's already connected to you is more likely to appear in your search results. And it also means you can see more information about them. So you can usually see if they have it visible, their email address, any other contact information they share, and you might even be able to see who they're connected to, depending on their settings. A follower is someone who only sees your content. So whatever really appears in the newsfeed, plus if they were not even a connection, what everybody else sees, you know, just what you've chosen to make publicly visible. So in the beginning, LinkedIn was only about connections. It wasn't about followers at all. But as it's become more of a publishing platform, and everywhere else we have followers, like we have followers on Twitter, we have followers on Facebook, we have followers on Instagram. I think they're trying to sort of, you know, tie in with that model where people think of it as followers rather than any form of obligation with a connection. Now I've already changed my LinkedIn profile. So I'm a creator, which means I have a follow button. So people who don't know the difference will just follow me. But I could see somebody who was following me that I thought, gee whiz, it'd be fantastic to have them in my network. So then I can invite them if I just go through the people who are following me, and I can say, Gail, would you like to be a follower? A connection. And also the more followers you have, like you can have an unlimited number of followers, but you can only have 30,000 connections. Now you might think, well, 30,000, surely that would be enough. Well, I'm already up to 22,000. So I haven't got a huge amount of wriggle room there. So yeah, you can, in theory, be a bit more selective. And one of the predictions that I've suggested that LinkedIn should consider is back in the beginning of LinkedIn, we had things like we could tag our connections. So we could say, this is our VIPs, this is our prospects, this is our colleagues, you know, you could sort them all. Now that facility is only available in Sales Navigator. Well, I don't need Sales Navigator on a regular basis, but LinkedIn is a network, and the secret to a network is keeping in touch with your biggest fans. And there's a number called Dunbar's number, and it was an academic who suggested that the most number of relationships we can reasonably maintain is about 160 people. So I said 200 just to make it a round figure. And that's what I'd love to see, that we could, you know, nominate those people as our VIP. And in theory, we could go to a screen and check our VIPs and say, hi, Gail, great to see you again. You know, what's up, whatever. And you would just keep in touch with those VIPs. Now, I guess the other way to do it is just to bookmark them all. But boy, it just seems tedious. I'd just love to be able to tick a box and see them all on my screen. So yeah, let's hope that comes.
Yeah, so I get a lot of requests from random people that I don't know, but I don't have any reason to not allow them to connect with me. So, but how do you get them to be followers rather than connections?
Well, you'd have to ask, basically. You know, they may have, if you turn on creator mode, then that will definitely make them more inclined to be a follower in the first place. Now, I also have a policy, so long as the person doesn't look like they're going to sell me the kitchen sink, immediately, if they're in Australia, then I will accept, right? Because I think somebody who's working at Woolworths and who wants to connect with me, and I'm not any aspersions to people who work at Woolworths, but say they're just starting out their career, it's a part-time job at the supermarket, then great. I think good on them. I'm happy to connect with them. Nothing to do with what I do. Are they likely to purchase anything from me? No, but I admire their tenacity. So I say yes to those people. But if somebody looks like all over their profile, we've got a deal for you and you can join our program and blah, 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 and it's sales. No, I just
So
fine.
in terms of, I get what you're saying about the VIP thing, but, if you've got so many randoms in your set of connections, you're then getting them in your feed. Do you go through and cull people at any stage?
I don't. Only cull people if they become a nuisance. But remember that the news feed is based on your behaviour. So say it was somebody who bred dogs and for some stupid reason they thought putting dogs on LinkedIn was a good idea. I don't agree it's a good idea, but anyway, I mean, I love dogs, but I think dogs should be on Facebook, right? So let's say they did that. If you never look at those dogs, then LinkedIn will very quickly realise you're not interested in the dogs.
Okay.
And it will disappear.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and it won't even come through on your notifications? Okay.
Usually not.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. They're great questions. Show an understanding and appreciation for LinkedIn. Yeah. Any other questions?
Gail asked my question, so that's fine. Thanks, Gail.
Good. Excellent. We can tag team.
Yeah, and indeed, you did answer my question. I wasn't suggesting putting, what I did on my holiday on LinkedIn, but I do need to use my business LinkedIn account more than I do.
Yes.
And I need to resolve what goes on my business account and what goes on my personal LinkedIn account. And it's hard enough maintaining that and a website and my business. So
Yes.
it is, I have thought about just ignoring the business account entirely, but I know people go to it. So
they do, and they check you out. So look, you can go down to 1 a month if it's going to be that difficult. Just produce 12 posts before the end of the year, and then on the first Tuesday of every month, just stick it on your company page. That's the quickest and easiest way to do it. But bear in mind that everything is catalogued there on the company page, and people will check it out. And if you haven't done anything for 3 months, then they'll say, is this person still operating? And also there's a chance that company profiles are getting more attention than they used to in the past. So there is a chance that, good quality company content can appear in the newsfeed. So it can be good for a variety of reasons. Now, in terms of the 3 presence items on the internet that I believe every business should have. Number 1, LinkedIn. Number 2, Google My Business. And number 3, not in any order, is your website, right? And the reason I say the website third is because you can start your business just with a LinkedIn profile. You can really get started. You can create a free website on Google My Business, and then obviously you can have your own website. Now, the reason I suggest a Google My Business profile is you need to let Google know what you're doing. And if you add a Google My Business profile to the internet, and you get reviews, you can add posts, and basically every time you update your website with something in the blog section, for example, you can put that on Google My Business, and it waves hello to the Google robot and says, Helen's just put this great content on her website. We will now consider putting that in Google search results. So at the same time you post on your personal profile, your company profile, I would also suggest you post, first of all, your website, then LinkedIn, the 2 places, and then your Google My Business profile, so that you can let Google know that you've published that content. Yeah. So I know it's an extra step, but very, very worthwhile. And in my view, you could skip the rest of social media if you wanted to. All right. If there's no other questions, I think we might wrap it up. Oh, yes, Gail.
Oh, now I've forgotten what it was going to be. Like in terms of, I usually put blogs on my website, and occasionally I'll copy them into as LinkedIn articles.
Yep.
The value of putting them in as LinkedIn articles is that they stay there on LinkedIn. But do people normally do it in both? Like if I do a blog, I'll put a link to back to my website in as a LinkedIn post. So can you just talk briefly about the
Okay.
relative value of copies and how many places you're putting them? And would you, if you've got your personal profile on LinkedIn, would you then also put that same post or article on your business page?
Yeah, great question. Okay. So in my view, the number one place to publish any content is your website, because that's the only thing you own, the only thing you can be guaranteed, provided you pay your fees, of continuing to have online. So that's always the number one position. However, I often write articles that only appear on LinkedIn. So if you Google tough love for the unemployed, one of my LinkedIn articles from 2017 appears. Now, I know when you woke up this morning, Gail, you didn't think about putting tough love for the unemployed into Google search, but if you did, my article would appear. Now, according to Google, you're not allowed to have duplicate content. So if you write a fantastic blog post and you publish it on your website, on LinkedIn, on Medium, on The Conversation, open forum, somewhere else, well, Google says you're trying to get too many bites out of the same cherry, and that's not right, okay? So if you're going to do that, you need to edit the content by at least 30%. But again, if you add the content to your website, you are given permission, I put that in inverted commas, permission, to publish it on your LinkedIn thing. The same, hardly any different. So what I actually found was I published articles on LinkedIn, and what ended up happening was they were originally being indexed in Google. So if you Googled it, they'd appear. But LinkedIn realized that my articles were doing better than their own content. So they de-indexed it. So I thought, I know how to beat this system. So I republished my content on my website, and because Google had already decided it loved it, and now my blog post comes before the LinkedIn stuff. So if you Google professional membership LinkedIn, you'll see my article on my website, is beating anything else. So that's kind of cool. But for me to get Google rankings, people have to click on it and they have to spend a reasonable amount of time on it. They can't just click it and say, don't like the picture of Sue and go back. That's not going to help. They've got to read a reasonable amount of it. And if they keep reading a reasonable amount of it, then it will stay at the top of search results. But if some other whippersnapper comes along and people read that for longer, then that will go up the rankings instead. Now, when you put a post in the news feed, it's in the news feed for as long as it's in the news feed. 1 day, 1 hour, maybe a week. That's it. Then it's finished and it's gone. But if you don't post, then the algorithm says you're not active on social media, so we're not going to give you any favor. So the strategy is post something on your website that's reasonably long, divide it up into 4, 5, 6, 8 sections, and then reuse little bits to keep directing people back to that original blog post on your website. Now, again, bear in mind, LinkedIn is a social media platform, and it's like every other social media platform. It's a megalomaniac, and it wants more and more people to spend more and more time there. So if every post you put on LinkedIn says, go to my website, what do you think LinkedIn is going to do? Not promote it, because it says you keep telling people to leave and we want people to stay. So that's why if I was providing a link, I still include enough information in the post. So for people like me who are time poor and only want to spend 2 seconds, I can get something of value in 2 seconds without clicking on the link. But if it was something unbelievably perfect for what I'm interested in, I could still click on the link. So you've got to remember the user experience. If they wanted more information and they couldn't click on a link because some wise person suggested they put it in the comments and then they couldn't find it in the comments, the user experience is dead. So that's why I suggest, put it in the put the main content, in the post.
Great. Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have a lot of practice. Bye, Helen. Any final questions? Thank you. Welcome, Google reviews. Yeah. All right. I might wrap it up. Thank you, Nikki, for joining us a little later. Did you have any questions?
Sorry, no, I just joined, so I'm open to any kind of topics at the moment. Thank you.
Great. Because you've registered, I will be emailing you the recording as well as the slides, a link to those. So you'll be able to listen to the rest of the session with that link.
Great, thank you.
You're most welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for the claps, Gail. All right, I might wrap it up there. Thank you once again for joining me on the LinkedIn Insights event, this one being LinkedIn for board directors and senior leaders. The January event in 2022 on the second Wednesday of the month at midday Melbourne time will be on LinkedIn for media professionals. So anybody who's in journalism, broadcasting, the media more generally, perhaps even public relations, the bad cousin of media, all welcome to join us. Thank you very much and bye for now.